Hey guys, I'm Chris Estes, and this is my comic book channel, Ink for Incorporated, where I'm going to talk about the top and bottom 5 comic books I've read this year. This is not a list of comic books that came out in 2017, but just normal trade paperbacks and complete stories that I read front and back in 2017. Let's get started with a strong first entry. This is DC's Trinity, written and drawn by Matt Wagner, which takes place in the first storyline of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman taking on their respective villains, Ra's al Ghul, Bizarro, and Artemis. This is probably one of the peak storylines with containing the DC's big three, and it's a really good story. I highly recommend it. If only every Trinity story was this good. If only. Let's get started with the first piece of trash in the pile of failure, which this contender isn't really all that bad. I just needed something to put on, make a list up to 5, because otherwise I would only have 4. It's my list, I can do what I want, sue me. This is a story where Batman and the Joker are going to become unwanted blood brothers by going cross-continent road trip. Sound like a cool idea? You'd be right, but the project is written by Brian Azzarello, and he's not good to say the least. When the plot is revolved around MacGuffin, you pretty much know the ending of the story. That makes it completely predictable and a very unenjoyable story all around. Surprise! It's in front of you the entire time! Hey Brian, have you ever played Batman Arkham City? When I bought this, I thought to myself, if this is going to be on the top of every single Batman story of all time lists, this better be the bee's knees of Batman stories. And boy oh boy did it come through. Batman The Long Halloween by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale is just a fantastic detective story going through like the second year of Batman's career as a crime fighter. And it's little to no wonder why this is one of the most influential Batman stories of all time. Remember when I said that I wish that every Trinity story was as good as the one I just said earlier? Well, this is one of those stories. It's actually volume 2 and 3 of DC's Trinity, which volume 1 wasn't all that bad. It had some pretty good story arcs involving Earth 3 or 2, whoever you're asking, and very centered around Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. But volume 2 and 3 are just terrible in all ways imaginable. It takes place throughout various universes and timelines and alternate timelines. If that's not complicated enough, it becomes even more complicated when Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman disappear from the very first issue of Volume 1 and they go off and go somewhere and become gods or something like that. Who gives a shit? While Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman go off and play gods somewhere, all of the DC Universe characters go back to their respective universe and timelines to it being completely wrecked due to the fact that there was never a Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman to affect the timeline. It's a pretty interesting premise if you actually think about it. What would happen if they were never existed in the DC Universe? How would that affect the timeline? You get to find out, but it's completely boring and uninteresting. It's a pretty cool premise, but with horrible execution. The entire time I was reading these two volumes, volume 2 and 3, I was constantly thinking of like, why has no one ever talked about this? Why is this not on anybody's top or bottom list of DC comic book stories? Once you get to around the end point of volume 3, you find out why. The main supervillain just punches a hole through the earth. Also, the only positive thing that I could say that Trinity volume 2 and 3 have going for it is that it's drawn by Mark Bagley. Occasionally. If you Google the word page turner in Google, most likely the first image that's going to show up is Mark Waid's Kingdom Come. I bought this on a road trip a while back, and, well, to say the least, I finished the book before I left the parking lot. a story that sits perfectly alongside of Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns. A story where Superman makes his return to the world, which in doing so could bring an end to the world. A story that makes you pick sides between your favorite superheroes, something that was done 10 years before Marvel Civil War happened. And to top it all off, it's accompanied by Alex Ross's amazing, fantastic artwork that rivals Renaissance painting. I mean, you can't even tell the difference. How can you go wrong with that? I've always been on the fence about Kelly Jones's art, but Batman Haunted Gotham made me hate his art style with a burning passion. Batman Haunted Gotham is an Elseworld story, but for some reason back in the day, like in the, dare I say, the 90s, DC had a thing for making Batman go up against all sorts of monsters like Dracula, Frankenstein monsters, being a Frankenstein monster himself, werewolves, zombies, all sorts of different stuff. There were actually several other stories that are written and drawn by the same creative team. Most of them are more hits than misses, but this one's a major miss. All I can say about this Batman Haunted Gotham is that it's boring, repetitive, ugly to look at. Batman kills people and then cries afterwards. That's how bad it is. Third worst. This is one of the best of all time. You know it, I know it. The critically acclaimed, the Pulitzer Prize-winning Maus, A Survivor's Tale, a not-so-simple tale of a Holocaust survivor during World War II, written and drawn by Art Spiegelman, and yes, that is his real name. The main character you follow through the story is Art Spiegelman's father, Vladek, through his life before and after during the war and his time in Auschwitz. There's also another main story thread that's going through the entire book where it takes place in the present day where Artie is talking to his father, which is where the commentary comes from. Let's get started on the art. It's charming and simple and pretty much just straightforward, but somehow that makes it feel just a little bit more haunting than it really should. It makes you feel like you're in the thick of it, like you're actually in the camps with the main character. I like it being simple because I would really prefer not to see constant high detailed images of the Holocaust presented like on every page, because it certainly does. Oh, and did I forget that this is based on a true story? Because it is. I want to start off with the second worst book on this list, with a story. My first two trade paperbacks of all time were Batman Hush by Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee. My second was Frank Miller's Batman The Dark Knight Returns. Imagine my surprise finding out that All-Star Batman and Robin is just a big fat garbage fire. Aside from Jim Lee's fantastic artwork, there's nothing good about this story. Batman is abusive, reckless, rash, impulsive, rude, stupid, dumb, retarded. Everything you can use for Batman as an allegory can also be said about the story as a whole. Now let's get to the story. And that's it. Just Batman running around Gotham, punching everyone, friend or foe. And yes, he does kill more thinking, feeling human beings than he did in Batman vs. Superman. In that, you do have a record. But it's not number one worst.
He was number one!
This one's gonna come as a surprise. I didn't even think I would like this as nearly as much as I do. This year's top number one place for best comic of the year goes to Maximilian's Terminal Lance, The White Donkey. It's about a war story that doesn't praise guts and glory like many other stories do, but emphasizes the weight of being a United States soldier overseas. The art matches the tone of the story scene for scene and beat for beat, and having the color being a simple indicator of changing scene for scene is nothing less than genius. Terminal Lance, The White Donkey is by far the best thing I've read all year. Quote me. Number one, worst story I've read all year. What can I say about this big bad pile of bad? bad writing, bad art, bad color, bad inks, bad set, bad stories, bad character, bad sequel, just bad, 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 bad all the way around. If you've read this comic, you know why it's here. I'm just gonna say it, it's the Batman The Dark Knight Strikes Again. No comic book has ever made me physically angry about reading a book. Reading any Frank Miller story makes you think, because the story has something to say. The question I kept asking myself is, why am I still reading this trash? Worst book of the year, hands down, goes to Batman The Dark Knight Strikes Again. Congratulations, Frank. You made the top one. Hey everyone, if you're watching this right now, you probably made it through the entire video. Thanks. This is just a short list of the top and bottom five things I've read this year, and I was wondering, what are the top and bottom five, what is the best and the worst thing you've read this year? I'm really curious. Leave in the comment section down below. Again, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, share with a friend, and see you next time.